President Trump is about to head into a meeting with Venezuela's opposition leader, feeling emboldened after Senate Republicans blocked an effort to limit his war powers. His role now in determining the future of the country's post-Nicolás Maduro has brought Maria Corina Machado to the White House after Trump surprised many by sidelining her in favor of Maduro's vice president. But Machado comes bearing gifts and to share her Nobel Peace Prize, though the Nobel Institute has made it clear this is not transferable. President Trump tells Reuters, quote, "I think we're just going to talk. I think we're just going to talk basics." MS Now's Vaughn Hilliard reports from the White House. Ali Vitale reports from Capitol Hill. Also here with us, the President Emeritus at the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass. So, Richard, just the other day, the president posted this fake image of a Wikipedia page calling himself the acting president of Venezuela. So is there anything basic about these talks?
Well, the president isn't the acting president of Venezuela, in part because the United States has not done regime change. We've obviously not done an occupation. We're obviously not doing nation building. What we've done is very limited leadership change. So the real question for these talks is beyond that, beyond the desire to get the United States oil companies into the oil sector of Venezuela. What is the United States prepared to do when it comes to reforming Venezuelan politics? Is there a role for what ought to have been the legitimately elected opposition just over a year ago? And where might the United States use its leverage on the current successor government there to open up a political space for Mrs. Machado and others? I think that's the only real question.
So, Vaughn, after the raid, Trump said Machado was a nice woman but lacked respect in Venezuela. Is there a sense she could do or say anything that would change Trump's mind today?
In question whether she could effectively lead the country. It's truly remarkable, especially understanding that over the course of the last 2 weeks, for instance, on Fox, Sean Hannity asked her whether she'd be willing to share her Nobel Peace Prize with Donald Trump, the American president. And she sort of hesitantly suggested that she would be open to sharing it. This is a moment here where the president has repeatedly suggested he is the one that is worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize because he has ended so many wars. And then yet, after taking out Nicolás Maduro, the opposition leader, who was effectively the one in waiting, he undercut her and said that she didn't have the respect of her own country and instead turned to Maduro's vice president, somebody who Machado has said very explicitly should not be trusted. It was the architect of the repressive regime's tactics across Venezuela. And that is why, just ahead of her visit here, we expect to see her at the White House in a matter of minutes. It was notable that the president, when asked about her visit, and then Delcy Rodriguez, who was essentially the one in interim power in Venezuela, well, this was his response.
We just had a great conversation today, and she's a terrific person. I mean, she's somebody that we've worked with very well. Marco Rubio is dealing with her. I dealt with her this morning. We had a call, a long call. We discussed a lot of things, and I think we're getting along very well with Venezuela.
A terrific person. Again, that was the president just yesterday talking about Delcy Rodriguez, who was Nicolás Maduro's vice president, somebody that Machado has said is potentially even worse than Nicolás Maduro. And so the conversation inside of the White House here today, you could expect to be understandably tense, understanding that the opposition leader just heard directly from the president suggest that he is perfectly okay with Maduro's right hand staying in power
today. But I want to play a reminder of what she told Fox about that.
Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition.
So the New York Times is reporting that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee is taking heat at home because Norwegians say this soft power tool has become a part of a political game. Does this matter? Or Richard, is it more of a sideshow?
It's a sideshow. Sometimes sideshows can matter with this White House. The president is obviously somewhat obsessed with the Peace Prize, but it's not the real issue. Look, there's a balance here. You couldn't bring Mrs. Machado into power right away without probably triggering massive civil unrest. On the other hand, you don't want to throw her under the bus, as has largely happened until now. So the serious issue is, can you begin to put into motion a political process where you begin to broaden participation in Venezuela, so it's not simply the old regime minus Maduro? And that's the serious issue. And if doing something, if sharing or taking pictures with the Peace Prize gets the president in that frame of mind where he accepts there's some kind of a meaningful role for the opposition, then go ahead and share it or do what you have to. But the real issue is the political trajectory of Venezuela and whether this country becomes essentially a viable, real country with real political participation, which provides, by the way, the stability then in the long run you'll need in order to revive the oil sector and revive economic growth.
But if Rick Scott's hope is correct, and putting the vice president or having the vice president in as the acting president is a transition that allows for there not to be civil unrest, then what, though? If she is, again, as some people have suggested, worse than the person she replaced, is she going to leave? Are there going to be free and fair elections? Like, what happens?
Well, you could have elections for something less than the leader of the country. You could set a political process. And again, you want to do this in stages. You don't want to put this at a pace that will overwhelm the political circuits. The last thing we want to see, again, is some kind of a civil war where all these colectivos see her and the opposition as a threat. You don't want to try to do this overnight, but you don't want to leave things where they are.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize, and I told him this, listen to this. 200 years ago, General Lafayette gave Simón Bolívar a medal with George Washington's face on it. Bolívar since then kept that medal for the rest of his life.
We don't know yet what the president's reaction was to that gift. We do know he wanted the prize himself. We should note the Nobel Committee has made clear the Peace Prize cannot be shared or transferred after it is awarded by the Nobel Committee. The meeting comes as the White House says Trump stands by his assertion that Machado does not have the support necessary to lead Venezuela. Just yesterday, the president called Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, of course, Nicolás Maduro's former vice president, a terrific person following a phone call. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the current Venezuelan government has been extremely cooperative.
Secretary Rubio and the administration have been in constant communication with Ms. Rodriguez and other members of the interim government in Venezuela. They have been extremely cooperative. They have thus far met all of the demands and requests of the United States and of the president.
In Caracas, Delcy Rodriguez delivered her State of the Nation address. She urged her country to wage a diplomatic battle with the U.S., saying, quote, "If I ever have to go to Washington as acting president, I will do so standing tall, walking, and not crawling." Kristen Holmes is live at the White House. Kristen, is it clear to you what the next steps are for Venezuela? If Trump is still saying Machado doesn't have the support and that he likes Delcy Rodriguez, seems like they're happy with the status quo for now?
Well, for now, certainly. I mean, we know one of the things that President Trump and the administration was trying to focus on was stability in the administration in Venezuela. That's part of the reason that they had kind of turned their focus to Rodriguez after the capture, actually before the capture of Maduro, for this idea that, one, they could have her in place and then put the screws to her. We know that they've kept the Armada that is in the Caribbean with essentially weapons pointed at Venezuela just off the coast. We know that we've kept sanctions, or at least some some of them in place. These are all forms of negotiating tactics to put the screws to Rodriguez to get her to do what the United States wants. Now, you heard Carolyn Levitt in the briefing today. She would not give any sort of a timeline on elections or a shift to democracy in Venezuela. So it's really unclear what this looks like in terms of steps. All we really know right now is this step or phase one, which is this kind of stability period where you see President Trump, the United States, trying to rebuild the oil infrastructure and continue to use basically the same regime. Maduro is gone, but Rodriguez is essentially a part of Maduro. She was part of his inner circle. She was his vice president. But to put an enormous amount of pressure on, and Rodriguez seems to be playing ball with the White House in a way that Maduro was not willing to. So right now, it does seem as though they are happy with the status quo.
Quite a change, given most of the government remains from the Maduro regime. Kristen Holmes, thanks so much. Richard Haass is President Emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations. He's also the author of the Substack newsletter, Home and Away. Richard, good to have you.
Good to be had.
So I first have to ask you this, given your long history in diplomacy. Is there any precedent or anything close to a winner of a prize, a Nobel Prize or similar, feeling pressure to give it to the U.S. president to curry favor?
I think that's a rhetorical question, Jim. I'm not familiar with anything like it. It was quite a gesture.
Let's talk about what's really happening here, because the way this story is being sold to the public is completely upside down. Donald Trump didn't earn anything. He didn't suddenly become a peacemaker. What we are watching is Trump doing what he has always done best, taking credit, hijacking narratives, and feeding his own ego. People keep saying, "Oh, she's sharing the Nobel Peace Prize with him." No, let's be honest. He's stealing it. This was never about peace. Trump has wanted that prize for years. He was openly angry that he didn't get it before. He complained about Obama getting it. He complained about others getting it. And now suddenly, under false pretenses, he inserts himself into a situation and tries to walk away with legitimacy he never earned. And before anyone gets offended, let me be very clear. I don't think she deserved it either. This is the part people don't like hearing, but I'm not backing down. You don't get to call yourself a champion of peace while simultaneously asking the United States to support an illegal invasion. That completely destroys the moral foundation of the award. So spare me the outrage. Yes, she may be the legal recipient, but morally, this Nobel Peace Prize was already compromised before Trump ever touched it, which actually makes it even worse that she's now sharing it with him. At least if it came from a legitimate peace laureate, you could debate it. This is political theater. Now let's talk about why Trump is doing this, because it has nothing to do with Venezuela's people. There are 3 reasons, and none of them are good. First, distraction. Notice how we're talking less and less about the files, the plane, Jeff's island, the mansion, and the young girls tied to that entire nightmare. That didn't happen by accident. Trump thrives on chaos because chaos buries accountability. Second, oil. This is about money. Venezuelan oil means profit for Trump and the people around him. Always follow the money, every time. And third, ego. This is an ego trip, plain and simple. Another opportunity for Trump to cosplay as a strongman, to puff out his chest, to compensate, to play the role of the tough guy on the world stage. That's why we get these shady meetings. That's why we see him standing next to people who aren't his wife, pretending this is diplomacy. But here's the thing. People see through it. Venezuela will not be better under Trump's influence. It will be worse. It will be exploited, destabilized, and used as a prop in Trump's never-ending campaign to feel powerful. And no amount of stolen prizes or staged photo ops can change that.